Welcome everyone to the MMA Vivisection with me, Zane Simon, and my co-hosts Eddie Mercado, Victor Rodriguez, and we are back. You posted that picture the other day, and you reminded me.
I was waiting for it. I was gonna. Next time it's gonna be Melendez. I'm like, oh god damn it! No, stop.
And that means, of course, we're back here for another Bellator event. I think we've missed a couple of these lately, unfortunately, but this is a great card for Bellator this weekend. We were just saying it's really unfortunate that this card is running right up against UFC 217 because there is no way to get hyped for this Bellator card in the shadow of that UFC card.
Nope. And it's sad. There's two titles on the line, and one's an inaugural title fight. So completely getting ignored, completely getting dwarfed, completely getting eclipsed out by UFC 217, which is way more important, quite frankly. So it sucks, but you know, someone's got to take this one on the chin. Someone's at fault for this.
Yeah, this is true. I mean, if they'd postponed this event by a week, they'd definitely be doing a hell of a lot better, I think, in terms of everything. But you know what, man? I mean, not only is it an inaugural title for the women's flyweight division, but it's also the fact that it's two of their better, younger, up-and-coming fighters that they could really build a division around, and it's all going to get blown into dust. They got a lot of great wrestlers and up-and-coming talent as well in the prelims, but again, it's just no one's really going to know. It's the tree falling in the forest thing going on right now.
So there's also, unfortunately, not a lot going on the prelims for this card. I know we were looking at it. There's some fighters that have some interest. I know, Eddie, you wanted to give a shout out to
Ryan Parker.
Ryan Parker.
He's turning pro. He had a 13-3 amateur record. I had the pleasure of commentating his last fight. It was SFL 31 Spartica Fight League here in Hampton Roads. So shout out to Ryan Parker turning pro, taking on the 1-0 Joshua Fremd, Fremd. Just shout out to the dude, local guy, rooting for him. I'm expecting a early knockout.
Yeah, and then there's like a wrestling prospect, Johnny Bonilla Bowman, Tiger Schulman prospect, Mike Trezano, few guys who might make some noise down the line somewhere, but no one or two, no big name fights except for what is currently booked, and we never know with Bellator prelim order what is currently booked as the final prelim for the Bellator undercard, the feature prelim for the Bellator undercard, which is Logan Storley versus Matt Secor. And Vic, why don't you tell me what your thoughts on this fight are? No, you're muted. Gotta unmute yourself.
Yeah, that's what happened. There you go. I thought I had a little more background noise. That's why I didn't want to. Okay, so Storley is 6-0, and he's training out of Power MMA. Originally from South Dakota, very much a hard-nosed wrestler, and he'd done had some fights in RFA. One of the few guys to start coming out from RFA and Legacy to Bellator as opposed to the UFC at about a year or so ago, and he's been killing it thus far, man. I mean, he's been finishing a bunch of his fights. Actually, he's finished all of his fights, and just a tremendous talent, dynamic athlete, just super explosive, knows how to cut corners, and he's really piecing his MMA game together. Even though his striking hasn't been that great yet, he's really at least established his fundamentals, and he's got some great base to build off of. So it's really just a matter of seeing how he develops. It's just another one of those fights to see where he is and where he moves on to from here. Unfortunately, you got Matt Secor in the way, who is Bellator, I guess you could call him Bellator mainstay at this point, who just another durable veteran who's been out there, and he's faced some tough opposition. I don't know, man. I'm just not seeing any real way for Secor to win, even with his veteran savvy. And I don't know if he's going to be able to deal with the pressure standing or deal with getting cracked a few times by the kind of youth and strength that Storley can bring. And I mean, unless he pulls off some kind of wild submission or something during a transitional scramble, I don't really think there's many options for him in this one. So I'm going to go with Storley on this.
Eddie, your thoughts?
My thoughts, I think I've already seen this fight. It was called Matt Secor versus Chris Honeycutt. So this is just going to be the same exact fight. I'm like 100% sure about that. So I will take the although younger record, I will take Storley here just because I mean, like I said, I've already seen this fight, and Secor is very inconsistent. So
yeah, Secor's also only won his fights by submission, so he could catch him, but a big power wrestler on top of you, like he's gonna give Storley the kind of fight he wants.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Brings us to the main card then, and our first bout on the main card: Ed Ruth, Chris Dempsey. Eddie?
This is interesting. So at first glance, I'm just like, oh man, Ruth is already getting Chris Dempsey, like UFC guy, like veteran. Like that's a little too much too soon, right? And then I start watching footage of Chris Dempsey.
I was gonna say, then the shoe drops.
Then the shoe drops, the glass broke, and I'm just like, man, this dude has lost 3 of his last 4. He was 1-3 in the UFC, lost all in the first round. Like it's a sad sight, you know. He looks like he would be a good fighter, you know. He looks like an overgrown Nick Lentz out there. Like he like tries to press forward with behind combinations, which is great, but you know, he's
got a terrible chin. Like that's really what you're searching for.
Beyond that, though, like, okay, so you got Ed Ruth. You know, 3-time NCAA national champion from Penn State. You know, he home field advantage, like Mr. Shit in the wrestling world. He can grapple. We've seen him get dropped in his debut, so he's still very green on the feet. But man, Chris Dempsey has the better combination striking here. He's got the better boxing combos. However, he's not necessarily heavy-handed, and he's at a severe height, not severe, but he's at a substantial height and reach disadvantage here. And he's slow. His combinations are slow. Like, yeah, he throws multi-punch combos, but they're slow. And to make matters worse, like you were saying, Zane, he has a glass chin. So, you know, he's been knocked out 4 times, and he's like one of those guys who goes out cold before he hits the ground. And, like, the follow-up ground and pound is always academic. So, you know, I mean, this is real rap, man. Like, I don't, you know, I'm just describing what I see when I watch him fight.
The description was what was funny to me, not the actual concept. That
it's to make matters even worse, he's hittable. So it's like he's hittable. He has a glass jaw. He's slow. He's not heavy-handed. He's at a height and reach disadvantage here. So what? He's going to out-wrestle? You know what I'm saying, Ed Ruth? Is that what we're doing here? Like, he's going to come out and try to grapple? Because that's his MO, you know? We saw that with Latifi. He came out and tried to grapple Latifi and just got smashed for it. So Ed Ruth is 3-0. You know, he is. But he's the taller fighter. He's the better athlete. He's the better wrestler. He has a better chin. I've seen him get rocked and recover quickly. And I've seen him get rocked, recover, and instantly go for a reactive takedown and get it and finish the fight. And that's huge. So, you know, all in all, you know, Dempsey might have the experience, but experience alone is not enough to sway me. So I'm taking Ed Ruth, and I'm going to give him that 3rd round TKO.
All right, Vic, you picking Dempsey to shut down the new prospect?
You have lost your motherfucking mind in real life. Let me tell you something. Ed Ruth is the future, okay? Ed Ruth is one of those guys. Everybody has been, you know, this whole sky is falling thing with Bellator. Like, oh, Aaron Pico, he lost his debut, and Heather Hardy and Anna Hulaton or whatever. Like, we're not looking at guys like AJ McKee, Joey Davis, Tyrell Fortune, and Ed Ruth, okay? These are the guys that we're focused on, have been brought along a little slower, right? But they're still on their way to being really, really exceptional fighters. Now, it may be too soon to see whether or not they're going to be future champions or anything like that. That's just as honest as you can be about it. But it's looking pretty good. And Ed Ruth has a lot of the tools and fundamentals. And a guy like Dempsey is exactly the kind of opponent that he would need at this point, right? Even though he's 3-0, he has a wealth of at least wrestling experience and competitive experience that he's been able to used to transition in MMA, not necessarily the most perfect, seamless way, but pretty damn close. And what makes this whole thing interesting to me is seeing, again, where he's at in terms of his development. Has his striking gotten better? Has his phase shifting gotten better? Is he able to mix up his strikes with his takedowns? Is he going to throw some more kicks? What about work against the cage? I think we're going to see something more of an exhibition here, and it's unfortunate because a guy like Dempsey, who is more experienced and who has fought some bigger names and, you know, traveled a little more extensively, yeah, okay, you know, I don't want to say that this is going to be target practice, but man, Ed Ruth is a tall ask. You know, he's just a phenomenal athlete, and when you have that kind, not just the pedigree, because it's not just you're not just resting on your laurels, but you're building off of that foundation. It's going to be a nightmare to deal with this guy, and a dude who is not as athletic, doesn't have the same kind of wrestling chops. I mean, you don't have to be an NCAA caliber wrestler to deal with an NCAA wrestler in MMA. I mean, we've seen that, you know, Miesha Tate versus Sarah McMahon, for example, right? Like, MMA wrestling is different, but Ruth has done such a great job at adapting it for this new sport and making the most of the opportunities handed to him in only 3 fights. Come on, guy. Come on. What are we really doing here? Like, no, fuck no. Ed Ruth all day.
It's a good fight for a prospect like Ruth, honestly. And you got somebody who's not dangerous, who's much less athletic, but who just has some veteran savvy. And so you're throwing a kid in there and you're saying, see what you can do with this guy. You know, he's hurtable. There are ways to win this. You can test out your striking if you want. You're probably not going to get hurt. You just have to go out there and not make too many mistakes.
It's really the perfect fight for Ed Ruth. It's the perfect step-up fight. You got a UFC veteran with a decent record, not really a name, but at least someone who has been to the UFC, has at least won in the UFC. You know, so this is perfect. And like you said, Ruth can always fall back on his wrestling. Not perfect for Dempsey. Like Dempsey.
No, it sucks for Dempsey, but Dempsey shouldn't be fighting, honestly, with his chin.
Yeah, it's really not good.
That's a problem. That is a very big problem. Yeah.
All right. Odds on that fight. Ed Ruth is a large favorite. He is a much bigger favorite than a 3-0 guy should be, frankly. But he opened at minus 360, dropped to minus 505, and is now out at minus 612.
I am so okay with that.
Oh, sure.
I am so okay with it. I mean, like, I wouldn't touch it, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah, there you go. It's really if you're betting on someone 3-0. There's a phone number out there that I need you all to call.
Well, he's the favorite anyway. I mean, like, what do you really, you know, I don't know.
Dempsey's at plus 295, opened at plus 295, adjusted up to plus 404, is now at plus 428. So
yeah, so if you want to bet on that, you're late.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, what is there? A Ruth inside the distance is minus 290 even.
Wow.
People aren't even, you can't even get anything for like betting on Ruth to KO him.
Nope, you're late. You're late. You missed it. You missed your window.
Yeah, nobody's biting. Holy shit, that's good. Right.
That brings us to the next main card bout, light heavyweight fight: Phil Davis, Leo Lete. And Vic, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, this is a dicey one, man. I mean, we just saw Phil Davis lose his title to Ryan Bader in June, and you know, it's a tall order for Lete, man. He's a Brazilian top team prospect. He's fought in Legacy. He's fought in Betetti Combat. Faced some pretty tough veterans on his way up, and he's a jiu-jitsu phenom more than anything else. But I don't know, dude. I mean, Jesus, it's such a tall step up, and he's not just a jiu-jitsu guy. Let's not get it twisted here. His striking is decent, and his ability to spread out his MMA game is good. He's got the resources.
He's a judo guy. He's a judo world champion also.
And he's also a judoka, right? But, you know, the thing that we've always noted, you know, save for certain cases like Ronda Rousey, Carl Parisian, judokas that are known for their judo, like Rick Hahn, you know, the reason they're known for their judo is because they actually use it. We've seen so many judokas come into MMA and they, you know, like Hector Lombard, after he got to the UFC at least, you know, barely rely on their judo to get, and opportunities that are out there for them to use it, they just squander it. So I don't know if that's really something that Lete is going to bring into this fight. He's going to be facing a wrestler, so he's definitely going to be tested here in terms of you know, his getting heavy on his hips and defending, and then, you know, trying to turn it into something else. Lete can strike, but man, Davis is just so awkward and lanky. I kind of feel that Phil Davis is going to be able to obfuscate and just sort of, you know, hit him with some, you know, confuse him with some bullshit. and eventually start landing enough shots, not just to win rounds, but to eventually wear things down in the end and get a clear decision. So, I don't really know how Leite is going to be able to like come in and beat the brakes off the guy. Like, if he charges forward, is Davis going to go straight back and eat something? Like, I don't know if that's really going to happen. He'd have to be super reckless, and I can see Davis firing back and putting him on his ass. So, yeah, it's probably going to be a very, very ugly Phil Davis win. And, yeah, it's probably going to go the distance.
All right. Your thoughts, Eddie? Are you picking Leite to take the upset?
I'm picking 2 grapplers, and Phil Davis is involved. We're getting kickboxing Phil Davis. It's just the way it works.
K1 Phil Davis.
Do you think there's any chance that Leite pulls guard on Davis?
Sure, absolutely.
Yes.
In
fact,
yes,
I do.
That's
yes,
probably the only way that Leite can control where the fight goes.
And I'll bet you it's going to be open guard too.
If he pulls guard on Davis, that makes it almost impossible for me to see him beating Davis, because for whatever people want to talk shit about Davis as being kind of a boring fighter, he is impossible to submit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which is like another reason why Leite is really going to struggle to win this fight, because on the feet he's really flat-footed. He's a one-off striker. I've seen him get dropped by a jab in his Ryan Spann fight, so he's really not good on the feet. And neither is Phil Davis, but Phil Davis at least is the better athlete and can at least has certain fundamentals, that, he's not going to take over a fight, but it'll at least keep him active and scoring. And, Leite has the grappling creds here, but they really won't account for much against this Penn State NCAA wrestler. Like, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So, Phil Davis, he's never been finished. And I don't see Leite being the guy to do it. So you have to win a decision over Phil Davis, but more importantly, you have to hit hard enough to win a decision over Phil Davis. And Leite does not do that. So in my opinion, on paper, this is a big step down in competition for Phil Davis. And there's no reason why Davis shouldn't pick up the unanimous decision here.
Yeah, it does, Leite is. I've seen him fight a couple of times, and he's definitely an exciting. He's one of those talents that's like it's really exciting to see them fight, and then when you actually see them take a step up like this, like your game doesn't quite work.
You're like a regional star, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like you're a small fish, stay in the small pond, or a big fish, small pond, but when you go to the big pond, and you're not exactly that big. But real quick though, Davis did knock out Francis Carmont.
Yeah.
There is a chance that Phil Davis could score a knockout on the feet here. Like this.
If Davis does not feel like he has to, if Davis feels like he has a big physical advantage over somebody, he has been known to go out there and actually just try to put it on people.
Yeah.
Especially if Leite will concede the clinch to Davis, then Davis is a lot more likely to press an aggressive game because he wants the clinch.
Yeah, it's really a bad stylistic matchup for Leite.
Yeah,
tough debut, and I wonder how this fight even was made. Like, why was this fight made?
Yeah, this wasn't even like an injury cancellation or anything like that. Well, so I don't know what purpose it serves.
A lot of these guys they're bringing over from the UFC, you get one of the big things that I think Bellator is offering these guys is guaranteed fights that they will fight X often.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm actually noticing that a lot more and more with contracts. I just interviewed a guy for Combates, John Castaneda, and he was saying how his contract is structured so that he's fighting every 90 days.
Yeah.
Which is nuts.
If you're a fighter, that's probably one of the best things that you can, one of the best pieces of leverage you can try to get out of a contract, because one of the big problems with the UFC, one of the things that a lot of fighters leave the UFC over is how inactive they end up having to be.
Yeah. It's like you either have guys that are fighting like 3 or 4 times a year, and then you're like the guy that fights like once a year. So it's crazy. And the thing is, like, if you pull out of a fight, you're not getting booked for like a year and some change.
Yep.
Like they really don't like that. Like they really set examples out of people who pull out of fights.
Yeah, the UFC is a very tough place to stay active, and the only people who tend to are people who can just be like in camp all the time, always ready to pick up the phone, always accept whatever fight, and then you can be Sam Alvey and you fight once a month.
Yeah.
You know?
Sam Alvey, Cerrone, Vicente Luque.
Yep.
Yeah. Magny's one of those guys.
There are a few guys who make that work, but most fighters, they want like an actual set fight camp, and they want to be able to like prepare and all that. And if life gets in the way of, they pick up the phone, they say, "Oh, I can't take a fight that you've offered me," then Shelby and co are just going to be like, "Well, I can't offer you another one for 6 months." So that's it.
Yeah.
Odds on this: Phil Davis, a favorite by a mile, opened at -440, adjusted down to -603, now at -745.
Oh no, baby! What is you doing?
What's Phil inside the distance?
Just a sec. Lete opened at +370, adjusted up to +463, now up to +500. Davis inside the distance is +160. Given the length of those odds,
that's probably, if you must, like if you're just like, I need an underdog bet, that's probably the one to take.
I'm not like
Lete inside the distance is +790, and if he wins this, the only way he's likely to win it is by submitting Phil Davis.
Yeah.
But honestly, given the length of the odds, you're just better off taking a straight bet on him if you really wanted to make an underdog bet.
You're actually better off just taking a square kick to the balls, because you're not facing Phil Davis.
You are better off just taking your money, lighting it on fire. And, there's a reason that Phil Davis is that heavy a favorite here. And
okay, but imagine if he did. Imagine if he pulled it off. How insane would this be?
Vic, don't put that in their heads.
I don't know. See, no, I can't. The brains are eating at my worm now. Like, I can't stop thinking about it.
Okay. All right. That brings us to our next main card battle lightweight fight, Zach Freeman, Saad Awad. Freeman, of course, coming off that sort of career awakening win over Aaron Pico when everybody thought that he would lose and was brought in to lose. And he looked great. And Saad Awad being Saad Awad. So, Vic, what are your thoughts on this?
Freeman, I got to give him credit, man. He's a lot smarter than people think as a fighter. I remember actually after Bellator 180, I had the opportunity to get a few words with him. And he mentioned, well, look, I forced that situation. I hit him with that uppercut, and then I was able to open up and do the rest, and it was a quick finish. So, he's not totally thinking outside the box, but he isn't exactly staying within this little cookie cutter mold either, right? Like he's at least looking at things. He's taking a step back, and he's understanding certain elements of the fight game that people might not expect from a guy who's his age and who's been fighting, against maybe not as impressive competition for some. Saad Awad's been around for a while, man. 20-9. I mean, he's been in some really tough bouts. I can definitely see Freeman, maybe Saad going for an odd submission or something like that. And, Freeman spending a lot of time trying to get out, and that pretty much being that sponge that takes up a lot of the fight. Other than that, if it just turns into more of a striking battle, I mean, I want to say that Awad has more polish, but much like the Phil Davis fight, it's like Freeman's another one of those guys who got some of that herky-jerky movement. Maybe he's able to throw some punches from some odd angles, a couple of low kicks when you're not expecting them. And then from there, he starts to create opportunities. This is one of those guys who should not be winning fights the way he wins them, but he somehow does, at least in some of these cases, right? So, God, it's a tough one, man. Saad's another tough dude, and I know that toughness gets him into a lot of trouble, so I don't know if I can trust him on this one. I think it's going to be a gritty decision, probably a split decision at this case, but I could definitely expect this one to be a very, very close fight. I'm going to go with Freeman on this one. Call it recency bias or whatever, but you know what? I'm feeling it, man. I think he's going to carry over some of that momentum. I know he's been training with some pretty sharp dudes, and I don't know, man. I think Saad Awad, sadly, is not exactly at his peak anymore, and he's really been on that decline in his career. It just hasn't been as noticeable as some other fighters.
Eddie, what do you think? Taking the upset too?
Man, I think this is a giant test for Zach Freeman.
Yeah.
He's getting an experienced veteran who has faced some really stout competition. And it'll tell us, is Zach Freeman for real? Or did he just catch a rookie in his debut? Right?
Will Aaron Pico be exposed?
You know what I mean? Like, he came out, he caught an uppercut, got the guillotine. Awesome. You know, that was awesome. Awesome. Club and sub, you got to love it. But, like, I don't expect Saad Awad to be making the kind of rookie mistakes that Pico made. You know, he's been in there with some really talented individuals. Like, he's not only that, but he's, like, super defensive-minded in terms of he doesn't like to get hit. So, like, he overreacts defensively. And that can get him in trouble, like we saw with Brennan Ward. And like Vic was saying, you know, he's a little too tough for his own good. But Freeman's untested here, you know. In my opinion, Freeman's biggest win is over a debuting fighter in Aaron Pico. Like, that's his biggest win. You know what I mean? Who's a bigger win? Name somebody, and I'll let you know if I know.
Well, in terms of fame and name value, then yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't want to disagree with that. But, like, you know, he did eventually. Yeah, that is his biggest win. That is. It is.
Exactly. He fought a bunch of nobodies. I've seen Saad Awad knock out Will Brooks. You know what I mean? So, you know, I've seen Saad Awad go into the fire and come back out. I haven't seen Freeman doing it. You know, Club and Sub and Aaron Pico isn't exactly doing it for me. I think that Freeman might struggle a bit on the ground with Saad Awad and Awad's top control, which, you know, Awad is just this scrambling motherfucker who, you know, you don't want to scramble with this guy because he's more than likely going to come out on top. Like, he just has a knack for finding top position. And that case in point, when he fought Ryan Quinn, you know, it was Quinn winning for takedowns, and Saad Awad would find a way to scramble and find top position, and that's what won him the fight. And I just feel like Freeman's so untested here, and until he beats someone of that caliber, I can't pick him to do so. And subs are his strength, and Saad Awad is excellent on the ground. When was the last time Saad Awad was submitted? Anybody know?
I'll check.
Probably a long-ass fucking time ago. Honestly,
it was Joe Duarte in Strikeforce in 2011.
2011. That's so long ago.
Wow. Actually, so, I mean,
I can't call that a path to victory necessarily. Saad Awad is very savvy on the ground. Freeman can hurt people on his feet. So can Awad. So I think the stand-up might be a little meh. I think a lot of this fight might take place in the clinch and ultimately on the ground. But I think Saad Awad will rack up the control time, and I don't think there'll be too much substantial strikes landed from either guy to, you know, sway the judges either way. So I think Awad will pick up a unanimous decision here based on his control.
All right. Awad opened at minus 240, adjusted to minus 218, and has drifted slowly up and down. Still back at minus 218 now. Not a whole lot of movement on that line. Zach Freeman opened at plus 205, adjusted down to plus 184, and is now at plus 173. So odds are closing a little bit on Freeman, but he's still an underdog.
They're where they should be, but yeah. Don't bet on it.
No.
Yeah,
don't.
Awad is. That's the thing, is that Awad has lost too many fights that I would have thought he would have won. You know?
Yeah, I agree.
He is the better fighter here. He just has the ability to drop some fights where I'm like, and you know, some of those fighters who he's lost to have gone on to be much better fighters than I thought they were.
Well, pretty much recently, all of them are. Brennan Ward, Derek Anderson, Pitbull, Freire, Patricky Pitbull, Will Brooks, David Rickle. Those are damn good fighters.
Yeah.
And Zach Freeman is not in that category.
It's true, but on the flip side, Ryan Quinn, Evangelista Santos, Rob Sinclair.
Freeman sounds like the next name on that list.
He might be the next name on that list, but I'm just saying, like, those aren't impressive wins either, you know?
No, but the Cyborg win was impressive. Like, he really did
Evangelista Cyborg in 2016 is not
fair. Like, right before Caved In Skull Cyborg.
Yeah, this isn't Strikeforce Cyborg. This is like
the irony is he's a cyborg for real now.
That's not how cyborgs work, Eddie.
Whatever, it's still funny.
Oh, God. Okay. That brings us to our co-main event, the inaugural women's flyweight title fight. Although I don't actually know if this is inaugural. What was Jessica Aguilar, when she was their champion? What weight was that at?
That was 115, I think.
Okay, that was 115. So it is their inaugural flyweight title, women's flyweight title fight. Ilima Le McFarlane versus Emily Ducote. And Eddie, what are you thinking of here?
I'm excited. This is an awesome fight. And I know this because I've seen it before. And like recently, they didn't fight that long ago.
It's true.
It was December 2016, so not even a year ago. But since then, well, let's talk about their fight. Very exciting, very back and forth. It started with Ducote landing, it might have been an uppercut, it might have been a right hand, but she dropped Ilima Le right off the bat. Ilima Le recovered, and then the fight just became one gigantic scramble. Like the whole time, bless you, Zane, the whole time it's just like this gnarly, just back and forth, like reversals and transitions and submission attempts. And it was fun. It was a real fun. It was almost like watching EBI, like part of it was, but like it was very entertaining. And I'm really expecting a lot more, or I'm expecting the same in this one. So Ilima Le went on to pick up the unanimous decision. I have to agree. I think I'm not upset with that. But since then, what have they done, right? So you have Ducote went on to fight Katie Collins. She picked up a first-round submission. She was really dominant on the ground. She has that collegiate base, so that's really her like MO. She comes out. She has a really heavy right hand. She starts with that, and then she transitions into her takedown game and trying to find top position and working from there, working her submissions. So after that, she goes on to fight Jessica Middleton, who's a little bit taller. She likes to strike. She really established her ground game in there too, but she wasn't able to finish. Middleton did very well with defending the submission attempts, but it was still pretty dominant, I would say. On the flip side, Ilima Le McFarlane fought Jessica Middleton and absolutely ran shop on her. I mean, it was gnarly. Like, she took her down, she spun and got an armbar, which was beautiful, and like she put it under the armpit, which is just extra excruciating. It was beautiful. After that, she goes on to EBI 12. She submitted Brooke Mayo, another Bellator flyweight, with a triangle in overtime. Also an exciting fight. So, if we want to do MMA math, we can look at the Middleton fight and say, okay, since their fight together, they both fought Middleton. Ilima Le ran through Middleton. Ducote did not, although she was still dominant. Does that tell us anything? Does that mean that McFarlane is the better grappler or has improved more in the grappling in the less than a year since they fought last? I don't know, honestly. I don't know. I think this will boil down to game plans. If Ducote comes out and with the mindset that, hey, I'm the better striker here, I'm going to set up this right hand and use my wrestling in reverse, then I think she has a really great chance at winning this fight. However, I have no reason to believe that Ducote will ever come out looking to only stand, because I've never seen her do that. So I think she's just going to ultimately give McFarlane the fight she wants, and that is a scrambling grappling match. And if she does that, I think it's just going to result in the same sort of ending, which is a unanimous decision for McFarlane. So I think that's what I'm going to pick.
All
McFarlane by unanimous decision.
Vic, what do you think? Playback in the second fight?
Not exactly. McFarlane is a little buzzsaw. She's a much more dynamic athlete. She's got more of that explosive strength, whereas Ducote's got more of that farm strength. You know what I mean? Like, she's able to, lift something slowly, like with, I don't know, an opponent or something like that. Her jiu-jitsu is, really very praiseworthy, and McFarlane's is too. But it feels to me like Ducote's a lot better at setting up and establishing her position before she starts to work the submission either way. So there's a lot less of that scrambly. I mean, she's capable of it, but it's not exactly her speed. You know, she's just really good at making sure she's got that strong position and foundation before she's able to start working things. As it relates to the stand-up, I got to give McFarland the advantage, man. I mean, that's not to say that Ducote can't catch her with a couple of shots. We already saw it in the last fight.
Off of what metric is McFarland the better striker?
It seems to me that she's got faster hands. It seems to me she's a little more accurate. You know, she's got a quicker in and out. So, I mean, she's able to tag her opponents more.
So you're saying she's a better volume striker? I mean, maybe. I just know that Ducote has that mean right hand. Like, I've seen, she dropped Bruno Varga. She dropped Aline McFarland. Yeah. Like Ducote,
no, she does. Ducote hits harder, I think. I mean, she's just not as quick and not as sharp or precise. You know, I don't know. I mean, look, that's just based on past performances, really. Which is the template that we're using here to make our predictions now. So I think that's really going to be a bit of trouble for Ducote when it comes to actually earning a decision if it does go to the judges. Now, that's really the thing that bothers me about this. And you know, I definitely think she has the tools to win. I think she might be able to catch her in a transition here, because you know they're going to grapple eventually. Like, there's no way this fight does not go to the ground at some point. And I think that Emily's going to have a few more tricks up her sleeve this time. I think she's actually going to get avenge that loss, and I'm going to go with that.
Nice. I like it. I like it too when you fight, because it helps me as the white guy stay on top of the power dynamic.
The old Bob Arum. Yes, indeed.
Keep stirring the pot.
Man, this is such a good fight, though. Like, such a fun fight. It's going to be fun no matter what. Like, the chances of this being boring are slim to none. And now that I've said that, I've jinxed it, so it'll probably be the worst fight.
It'll probably just be like them staring at each other, circling.
Yeah,
one punch every 30 seconds.
Yeah, somebody pulls a hamstring and they have to cancel it. Oh, God, that would suck.
I think we should also mention that McFarland is from a much better camp. Like,
yeah, that's true.
ATT OKC, but McFarland's got Team Hurricane Awesome with Liz Carmouche. Like, they got a mean stable out there. So
now, hang on a second. Doesn't Ducote also train sometimes with oh God, Lovato?
I don't know. Rafael Lovato.
Lovato Jr. Rafael Lovato. Yeah, I think so. No,
do they?
Maybe.
I thought Lovato was down in Coconut Creek. I could be wrong. I don't know.
No.
Who knows? Maybe after Colby Covington, there's a complete split, and all the Brazilians left and went to OKC and left South Florida. I don't know.
Anyway,
the Brazilians are never leaving Florida. Stop. No, they're never leaving Florida.
Ducote is the underdog at the moment, opening at plus 240, adjusted up to plus 252, and has since dropped back down to plus 242. And McFarland, the favorite, opening at minus 280, adjusting down to minus 299, and dropping to minus 311.
I'll say this, to Vic's point, Ducote is not a bad bet at those odds. She is not.
Yeah.
After seeing how close that first fight was, you know, there's just, I can't see either of them progressing that much in less than a year to where they will substantially dominate the other. So
if you think that either of them is going to get a stoppage or a submission, then there's under 4.5 rounds is plus 155, over 4.5 minus 175.
I don't see a finish transpiring. Yeah. They're both tough. They've never been finished.
All right. That brings us to our main event title bout, and it's Ryan Bader, Linton Vassell for the light heavyweight title. Vic, who you got?
Yeah. All right. Smart money says Ryan Bader all day, end the story. Problem is, we live in the dumb timeline, okay? We live in the stupidest time possible where a lot of insane things can happen.
Call it like you see it, Vic. Call it like you see it.
So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm still picking Bader, but I don't think that Vassell is going to make it easy for him. I mean, he can be cracked, and Bader can knock people out. His boxing has gotten far better. He's not a bad boxer by any means.
Of course.
No, but by that same token, you know, Vassell's really surprised with how good he's gotten with his grappling and his scrambles as well. I don't know that that's enough to deal with a power wrestler as good as Bader, or nor as smart as Bader, because he's not a guy who's just going to shoot for a double. He's not content with that. He will be able to chain certain things together and outwork his opponent. His cardio is fantastic. His strength advantage is definitely there. So Vassell's definitely going to have his hands full. I don't see many avenues for victory unless Bader gets careless, but I don't think that's going to happen either. So, Vassell's going to give him a pretty good fight until eventually at some point over the course of 5 rounds, Bader's just going to out-tough him and eventually, put him away. So I'm probably going to say Ryan Bader TKO late 4th.
Vassell does tend to make every fight difficult on everybody, even himself, including himself.
Yes,
he rarely
especially
goes out
himself.
and just dominates somebody. Every fight is always this awkward, messy sort of back and forth battle. Eddie, what are your thoughts?
I think I have to argue with that because King Mo beat the shit out of him for the entire 10 minutes.
Okay, except King Mo. But Bader doesn't fight much like King Mo either. For that.
All right. Well, speaking of that, so both of these guys are on 3-fight winning streaks following a really embarrassing loss. Bader with Rumble Johnson and Vassell with King Mo, like we just said. Now, since then, they've gone on to do really good things. Bader knocked out Latifi in epic fashion, which I didn't think he was capable of doing. He knocked him out with a knee. Like, what? Cool. Like,
I thought he fucking killed him.
Right? Like, it was a highlight reel for sure. And if there was ever luck in a fight, that was luck. But he went on to TKO Lil Nog. No one cares about that. And then he goes on and he beats Phil Davis again in a boring sparring match to capture the Bellator belt. On the other side, you got Vassell. He beat Emmanuel Newton, beats Francis Carmont, submits Liam McGeary, first guy to finish Liam McGeary, which was impressive. Triangle choke from half guard, which I'm sick of seeing. But, man. Okay, does anyone actually think that Linton Vassell can outstrike Ryan Bader? Because I don't. Right? No. So Vassell just doesn't have that sort of pop on his strikes, and he's such a one-off striker that I don't see him hurting Ryan Bader on the feet. So can Linton Vassell submit Ryan Bader? Maybe. Bader's been submitted twice. John Jones and the club and sub from Tito Ortiz, but that was a really long time ago. But so can Vassell submit Bader? Yes, absolutely. But can Vassell get the fight to the ground? I really don't think so. He's not going to come out and out-wrestle Ryan Bader. That's absurd and wild. Like, no one's going to make that claim.
It's not happening on his terms, no.
So if Vassell does get the fight to the ground, it has to be like a Nogueira sort of situation where he comes out, he gets rocked, he goes down, his opponent tries to follow him to the ground, he recovers, comes back and gets a submission. That's really the path of victory here for Vassell. Ryan Bader has never lost a decision. So you have to finish Ryan Bader. And if you can't get Ryan Bader down, you're not going to submit him. And if you don't have the power to hurt Ryan Bader or take him out, you're not gonna beat him. So, I mean, what is the real path to victory here for Vassell? He's just so unfluid on the feet. I mean, a subber's chance, can we call it that?
Choker's chance is
Choker's chance. Choker's chance. Yeah, that's what it is.
I'll allow it.
It's Bader is just really better in every single area, except maybe submissions, maybe. But even then, like, you have to get the fight to the ground, and Vassell really has no real. There's no proof that he can do that. So I got to pick Ryan Bader, the better wrestler, the stronger guy, the better athlete, the more coordinated fighter. I'm going to take him by TKO. Well, I'll pick him by decision or TKO in the championship rounds, like Vic was saying.
All right, I could easily see Bader getting the TKO just because if Vassell's going to let Bader on top of him from round after round, which he probably will, because Vassell at some point is just going to want to get this to the ground however he can, then Bader on top is really just he will pull people there, you know.
This could be Linton Vassell versus King Mo light. You know what I mean? Like just not as bad, just like a kickboxing bout where Bader does just
5 rounds instead of 2.
Oh man,
that only had 2 rounds.
Yikes!
Yeah.
Yikes!
Yoink.
Yeah, Vassell just might not make it out of this one.
Odds on this fight: Linton Vassell is fairly heavy underdog. Opened at plus 160, adjusted up to plus 266, and has kept going up to he's now plus 332. And Bader opening at minus 185, adjusting down to minus 319, and has since kept sliding out to minus 448.
Minus 185 was a bet. But again, if you're trying to bet on this, you're late. Like if you're trying to get Bader, you're late.
Bader inside the distance is plus 115.
If you're late and you need to make a bet, you can try that one. Has Vassell ever lost a decision? Or he's never lost a 5 round?
He lost a decision to King Mo. I mean, that was a decision.
But like late championship round style, no.
Has he fought a 5-rounder? I don't think he has he?
Emmanuel Newton took him out in round 5.
Emmanuel Newton.
Right, yeah.
He's otherwise never made it. He's never lost going the distance. He's never fought going the distance.
Mm-hmm.
For 5 rounds.
Man. That's tough. Bader can pick up decisions. I mean, Bader's won 11 decisions, so maybe Vassell's maybe because it's going to be King Mo versus Vassell light, that Vassell might be able to survive until the final bell.
Yeah.
But there's still no way he's going to win this. I hate to say it. Yeah. I just don't see a path.
No. That pretty much wraps things up. There's also, we should note, a PFL fight card tonight on Fight TV. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on this card because it is on Fight TV, and we can't, you have to pay to get it. And I don't imagine people paying for a PFL. Maybe it's showing free, actually. I haven't looked at it.
Do not illegal stream, ladies and gentlemen. Do not illegally stream it.
But that will feature Blagoy Ivanov versus Kyle Alankar in the main event.
Blagoy.
Blagoy's going to catch a body.
Yeah, Ivanov favored minus 300 to minus 350 right now. Alankar in the plus 250 range. Lance Palmer versus Steven Seiler in the co-main.
Palmer by decision. Seiler's tough enough to survive, I think.
Palmer is currently floating around minus 600 to minus 650. Seiler currently around plus 400, plus 425. Mike Kyle is fighting tonight against Daniel Gallimore. That fight is at dead even odds about Kyle minus 110, Gallimore minus 130 to minus 115.
Plus 500 on bites.
And Timur Valiev is fighting Josinaldo Silva. Valiev at minus 525 to minus 580. And Josinaldo Silva plus 350 to plus 410.
That's a good goddamn fight.
Definitely nasty.
That's a good fight, though. I love Blagoy and all that, but that's the fight right there.
So the only fight well booked in the odds maker's eyes involves Mike Kyle.
For that, I'll say this. If you feel like you need to bet on PFL, call 1-800-522-4700, and they will get you the help you need.
Eddie's doing you a service, beloved. Stay chaste.
All right. On that note, you can find me on Twitter at TheZaneSimon. You can find Eddie on Twitter at TheEddieMercado. You can find Vic on Twitter at Vic M. Rodriguez. You can find all three of us over at bloodyelbow.com, DOTCOM. What? No, I don't have to spell that out. It's bloodyelbow.com, whatever.
You know what we mean. Thumbs up us.
You can find us all there. Give us a like over on YouTube. That's the thumbs up thing. And subscribe to our YouTube channel, MMANation.com, DOTCOM. That's where you got to spell it out. That's where you get all the latest Bloody Yellow shows, videos, news, analysis, all that stuff we do week in, week out. And we will be back next week for UFC Norfolk and what's on the Bellator MMA.
Hold on, real quick, Zane. It's pronounced Norfolk.
Norfolk, whatever. I don't care about
all
you
of
East
you out
Coast
there.
weirdos.
It's Norfolk. It's not Norfolk. Don't do that.
Virginia people are so goddamn touchy. I swear, it's like Floridians with their oh god, stop.
Yeah. So next week too, we will have Bellator 187, AJ McKee versus Brian Moore. This one is in Dublin, Ireland, which means that it will probably not be watchable live in any way, shape, or form. So we may not do a show for this.
2017.
Yeah.
This could be tape delayed by like a whole day. So,
God, why?
Sure we'll do anything with this at all.
Probably not, because actually Vic and I will be in Cancun, Mexico for the Copa Combate tournament, so we probably won't even be available for that anyways.
All right. So we may be back the week after that for Bellator 188. Now that's in Tel Aviv, Israel, with Patricky Vital.
Stop with the tape delay. God damn, why?
And that's a title fight too, but it's a title fight with literally nothing I give a shit about under it at all. So
welcome to Bellator.
Getting hyped for that is tough. Might be all the way until Bellator 189, Bud versus Blencow 2. We'll see. Anyway, one way or another, thanks everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next time.